One of the most impressive aspects I've seen out of Michigan football this year, uh, in addition to the overall effort against Penn State on both sides of the ball, was going to Kinnick and running Blake Corum over and over and over and over and running on a defense that nobody runs on, except for, I guess, Mo Ibrahim did this past weekend, but they couldn't score. And then Ohio State, of course, had that 3-week Iowa Penn State run. And I'm trying to think who they played the next week that they couldn't run the football. And, I told you before we started this whole thing in week 1 that Notre Dame game was going to show me a lot about Ohio State's toughness up front and if they really were determined to playing physical football. And I thought that they conquered that or showed us something in week 1, but it's dissipated ever since. So
it's very, it's funny. Ohio State trying to establish a physical running presence is similar to Michigan trying to establish a downfield passing game. About the same juncture of the season, when it looked like both of them maybe had discovered a curveball, teams then began saying, "Okay, prove it to us now. We're not just going to automatically assume, right?" I think what happened in that Iowa game is all the early tape on JJ was good, and the other thing with JJ too is the running threat. Now he has barely ran the last few weeks. It's clear again. They don't want to take because we're not talking about a guy that's 230 pounds. He's maybe 197. So they clearly wanted to limit the amount of hits he was going to take before this game. I think you'll see him run more Saturday than he has all season long. And you're talking about a legit 4.5, 4.55 guy back there at quarterback that can crease you if you overplay the run. And so I think Iowa, knowing that, having the running film from last year and having some of the early passing film and against those non-conference scrubs, they stayed back and played a lot of 2 safety high and didn't load the box. And so Michigan was just content to say, hey, we'll just take 5 or 6 yards all game long, not risk turnovers, not risk throwing into the teeth of that opportunistic Iowa secondary. You mentioned Mo Ibrahim had over 260 yards. Minnesota couldn't stop handing the ball to Iowa and killing itself. That's how Iowa wins games. And so we got we got a little further into the season, and more teams started saying after Penn State, all right, we can't have them do this to us any longer. All right. So JJ has to show he can beat us. And he wasn't able to do it, but we were just so much physically better than those teams. It just didn't matter. Blake Corum had 168 yards against Nebraska. Didn't have a run over 12 yards. Just 5 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, almost like a triple option attack every down. Nothing you can do about it. And if it's 4th and 2 and less, we're going for it because we're going to get it, right? Like a triple option team. Saturday was the first time that we ran into a defensive front that played us the way everybody's played us the last few weeks, but had players at the line of scrimmage that could actually take a punch in the mouth at the line of scrimmage. But even there, Corum had 100 yards at the half. Everybody forgets that's 1st and 10 inside the Illinois 10-yard line right there. When he drops the ball going for his knee, at worst it's 10-3. But let's say nothing happens. That's a casual play. Worst thing is that's 10-3, and we've got a lot of momentum going into the half because we got some points there before the half. If that game's 14-3 and Blake Corum's healthy, now what do you think the final score is, right?
Sure.
It ain't 19-17. Now it's probably not 35-7. It's probably more like 27-13 or something. And Michigan never really was in doubt. Illinois played hard, a little bit like your game. Maryland hung around, but I don't think anybody ever felt like Ohio State could lose that game. You thought for a bit maybe Michigan might actually lose this one, okay? So that one play was a huge swing in the game and maybe the entire season. So I think it's fascinating. It's a fascinating psychological exercise. You would think, and typically all the pressure should be on Michigan. They are the defending champs. They won the game last year. Everybody and their mother. Is Heather Dinich done campaigning for Michigan to not be in the top 4 of the college football playoff yet? Everybody and their mom in the media is just assuming Ohio State is going to win. There's no pressure on us at all. I've never seen less pressure on a defending, reigning Big Ten champion that was like a name program, not like a year Drew Brees leads Purdue, right? I mean, can you think of a time that there was less pressure on a blue blood, a reigning Big Ten champion than there is on Michigan right now? There's none. There's absolutely none. None. You know what I mean?
People expect Ohio State to win.
Yeah, everybody just expects Ohio State to win. I mean, it's only now we didn't start playing 11 games in college football till 1970, I think it was, or 1971.
Yeah.
And so this is only the fourth time since then that Michigan's even been 11-0. So, and you know, it does remind me a little bit, although this is a better Michigan team record-wise, but it reminds me a little bit of some of those games in the mid-'90s when Ohio State was the higher-ranked team and it was the expectation they were going to beat Michigan. Like I think of 95 and 96, I think Ohio State was number 2 in the country back-to-back years, right?
Yep.
Lost both of those games. I mean, there is no pressure on Michigan at all. Now, sometimes that's because there shouldn't be. You know, so I kind of suspect Ohio State will win by like 10 or 14, or Michigan will win outright. I do think if it's a one-score game, I think with Tennessee's loss, we are very close to, if the game is competitive on Saturday, Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia are locks to get in the playoff, and we're determining who the fourth team is.